besties, welcome to today's video. What do we think of this angle? I feel like I kind of like it because you can see my bookshelves a little bit. My butt may get numb from sitting on the floor, but gotta do what you gotta do for the angle, I guess. Anyways, as I'm sure you can tell by the title, today we're gonna be talking about all the books that I read in March. I read 10 books last month, and I am so excited to talk about them with you guys. I have just really been enjoying reading lately. Last few books I've picked up have been so good, and I know there's even more amazing books to come because there's so many good new releases in April that I'm planning on reading. So I'm just loving my reading lately, which is a fabulous, fabulous feeling. I'm realizing right now that I did not prepare my stats, so give me a moment here while I look at these books. I read 4 romance books, 3 fantasy books, 1 mystery, 1 nonfiction, and 1 sci-fi slash fiction. Hopefully the numbers I just said add up to 10 because there's 10 books right here. I actually have a physical copy of all the books that I read this month, which doesn't happen often. This is my stack. Maybe I should take a thumbnail before I get into talking about them. I always forget to take thumbnails. Okay, that's heavy, wow. Without further ado, let's start talking about the 10 books that I read in March. The first book that I read in March, I kind of picked up on a whim. If you don't already know, I work at a bookstore, and I saw that we had received this book, and I was so intrigued by it because I've heard a lot of people talk about Cara Stone's other book, Ready or Not. Haven't read that one yet, but I'm really intrigued to now because I did really enjoy this one. It's called Promise Me Sunshine. Our main character, Lenny, has just lost her best friend and is struggling with immense grief from that. She's at a place in her life where she's kind of just floating around trying to figure out what to do next and how to process all the pain she's going through when she meets Miles, who initially comes across as very standoffish and very grumpy, but when we get to know him more, when we peel back his layers, we realize that's not who he truly is, and he ends up being the biggest sweetheart who can really empathize with Lenny and help her through this process. It sounds weird, but I just loved the way Miles handled Lenny. He always just met her where she was, even if she was acting outlandish or unreasonable. Miles had such a collected way of helping her calm back down. But yeah, Lenny was a very witty, sarcastic female main character. She gave Lorelai Gilmore vibes for sure, but maybe a little bit cringier. I'm not gonna lie, when I first started reading this book, I was rather cringed out by Lenny, but she really grew on me, and obviously I had a ton of sympathy for her because she was experiencing something so horrible. But yeah, I definitely recommend this book. It was really sweet, yet had lots of depth. There's one quote that I'm trying to find, but I guess I didn't dog ear that page. Anyways, Lenny's mom says something along the lines of, "Does he treat you well?" And Lenny says, "Mom, he walked into hell and pulled me back out." Like something along the lines like that, and it was so good. Oh, this book hit really hard. It wasn't a 5-star for me because of those few little things I mentioned, but I think it landed on a 4.25. Very specific, but that feels right. And I read Immortal by Su Lin Tan. This is a standalone fantasy book with elements of Chinese mythology, which were really cool to read about because a lot of the time I feel like the fantasy books that I read can get pretty similar to one another, but this one definitely stands out. We're following Lian, who's ascending to the throne, and she kind of has to gain the respect of her people, but she also has to gain the respect of the gods who rule over her people. She has to deceive the gods for this particular reason, and she befriends and becomes close to the god of war. A relationship unfolds between the two of them, but they're both teetering back and forth between going all in because they both have feelings for one another, but they're also kind of using one another to get a leg up in a sense. So yeah, this book was very interesting, definitely fun to mix it up from the typical fantasy I was reading. Not my favorite ever, but I would still recommend it, so I landed on a 3.5 for this one. All right, then I read Elsie Silver's new release, Wild Side. This is the 3rd book in her Rose Hill Ranch series. I was so excited to have something new by Elsie to read. I actually still haven't finished the Chestnut Springs series. I've been savoring it because I don't want it to end. But yeah, in this book, we're also kind of exploring the topic of grief. 2 heavy hitters back to back. But in this one, Tabitha loses her sister, and her sister leaves behind this little boy, Milo, and Tabitha anticipated that she would step up and be Milo's parent, but in her sister's will, she actually left Milo to this guy, Reese. So Tabitha had a very complicated relationship with her sister, so she's super upset that she would leave her son to this seemingly random man. And Reese has only heard unfavorable things about Tabitha. They honestly start off hating each other, and we have kind of this like hate to love situation going on. I love Elsie Silver's writing. I love how her characters always feel like real people to me. The one thing that I just could not get behind was Reese's profession. And I feel like people either love this aspect of the book because it's something new and different, or they hate this aspect of the book. Unfortunately, it majorly cringed me out, but I have to give Elsie her props for doing something new and different, I guess. So yeah, I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Then I completed my reread of Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This book is clearly very well loved. We're following Nora, who's a book agent in New York City, and Charlie, who's an editor in New York City. And Nora is your typical character that you see in books and movies sometimes, who is kind of cold-hearted, only cares about work, and isn't very compassionate or down to earth, but not in an annoying or unlikable way because she's extremely self-aware and has a lot of layers to her that explain why she is the way that she is. She has this younger sister, Livy, who she goes on this trip with to a town. One of their favorite books is set. She's also the agent for the author of that book. But of course, while she's there, this editor who she really dislikes, Charlie Lastra, also randomly happens to be in this small town as well. But yeah, obviously a romance unfolds between the two of them. We have this like slight enemies to lovers situation going on, which creates the best banter and the best dialogue ever. They're both just so smart and so funny, which makes this book so enjoyable to read. And yeah, 5 stars. Literally perfect to me. I love this book so much. Okay, then I made a video last month where I read a few books out of my comfort zone. The first being The Ministry of Time by Kayleigh Bradley. I read this book thinking that it was gonna be sci-fi, but it was honestly primarily fiction with elements of sci-fi and romance, in my opinion at least. In this book, we're following a nameless main character who works for the Ministry of Time in London. They're bringing people from the past to current day and working on assimilating them into society. And our main character is a bridge, which means that she is assigned someone from the past to live with and assist in this transition as they're getting used to all these new things that they never could have imagined being from the past. So already a very intriguing plot, but I enjoyed this book even more than I thought I was going to. Really enjoyed her writing style and how she described things and how everything was interestingly tied together at the end. And yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The next book in that reading genres outside of my comfort zone video was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, because I don't tend to read very many mysteries or thrillers, and this is one that I've heard a lot of good things about, so I had to pick it up. We're following a couple who, in a last-ditch effort to kind of save their marriage, are going on this couple's retreat to Scotland, where they're staying in this remote cabin. Adam, the husband, has facial blindness, which due to this and his obsession with work causes his wife to feel very unseen and kind of neglected by him. But yeah, this book was very eerie, but felt very slow to me, honestly, until we got to the plot twists towards the end. The big main plot twist of this book was really good and I really enjoyed it. But due to me not loving the whole like first chunk of the book, I ended up giving it 3 stars. But if you do want a mystery that you can kind of like binge in one sitting, that's what I did. I would recommend this one. All right, the third and final book that I read in that trying new genres videos was The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, because I also don't tend to read a lot of nonfiction books. I've been hearing about this one nonstop, seeing lots of clips of Mel herself on TikTok. So I really wanted to pick it up, and I'm really glad I did, because I feel like there is a lot of very valuable information in here. One issue that I have with personal growth type books is I find them to be extremely repetitive, sometimes when they're only discussing like one theory. However, I will say there are layers to this theory, so I'm glad she dove deeper and discussed that. But this book did feel like it dragged on for me. It also could be because I'm not a huge fan of nonfiction though. Overall, I think Mel Robbins is awesome. I'm really glad she has a platform because I feel like she has a lot of very valuable information and tips to share with people, especially with women. That's not to say I don't think men would enjoy this book too. I feel like anybody could get something valuable out of this. But yeah, I ended up rating it because I haven't read a nonfiction book in so long and I have no idea how I would rate a nonfiction book at this point. My stack is getting tall and my butt hurts. Okay, 3 more books. Let's do this. Then I read Lost and Lassoed by Lassoed. I read this in preparation for her 4th and final book in the Raw Blue Ranch series that's coming out in April. And this was my favorite in the series so far. In this book, we're following Teddy, who's a very fun, outspoken, witty character, and Gus, who is Teddy's best friend's older brother. He is a single father and he's much more serious and has kind of always disliked Teddy because when his sister got in trouble when she was younger, she was always with Teddy. So he's kind of always held that against her. And they've developed this really strong dislike for one another, which has built up so much tension over the years. And when it finally breaks, it's so good. People kind of equate this to Heartless in the Chestnut Springs series because Teddy ends up losing her job and Gus needs a nanny. So Teddy ends up nannying his daughter for the summer, similarly to what happens in Heartless. I'm honestly trying to decide which book I enjoyed better, but I think I just really enjoyed both of them. I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars, and I think I gave Heartless 4.5 stars as well. It definitely has enough differentiating factors where it feels like a completely different book from Heartless, so I wouldn't shy away from it out of fear of it being too similar. Maybe don't read them like back to back, but oh my god, they both have red hair too. The female main characters in both of them have red hair. Interesting. Anyways, I loved Teddy's character in this book so much. And like I said, I feel like these books just keep getting better and better as this series goes on. So I cannot wait to read the last one when it comes out in a couple weeks. Okay, then I finished off March with the Crimson Moth duology, duet, whatever you want to call it. We have Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli or Ciccarelli. I don't know how to say her last name. Ciccarelli? Anyways, I ate this duology up. It gave me that feeling that I'm always striving for when I pick up a new book, where I just want to be addicted to that book. Like, I love when I leave my house and the entire day, I am just waiting until I can get home and get in bed and read my book. And that's how I felt the entire time I was reading this duology. It's a great setup. We're following Rune, who is secretly a witch, but is posing as this kind of like dumb socialite to throw people off her trail. And the love interest is Gideon, and Gideon is a witch hunter. Not only a witch hunter, he's like the head of the witch hunters. Also, not only is Rune a witch, but she is the Crimson Moth, an alias that she uses to help rescue a bunch of witches and save them from the witch hunters. So Gideon starts to suspect that Rune might be the Crimson Moth, so he starts pursuing her romantically, thinking that he can learn more about her and potentially catch her as the Crimson Moth. And she starts pursuing Gideon romantically because, as the head of the Blood Guard, the head of the witch hunters, he has tons of intel that she can use to help save more witches. So they're deceiving one another while also developing some real feelings as well. We have this whole back and forth situation that was just so good, and I love the way everything came together in the second book. This was the perfect duology for me. I gave Heartless Hunter 4.5, and I gave The Rebel Witch 5 stars just because I had a fabulous time reading. It's honestly a book that was rather predictable. Like, every little plot twist we got, there was hints along the way where I had thought to myself, oh, that's totally what's gonna happen. The vibes were just so good and so fun, and I had an amazing time. Can't recommend this duology enough. There we have it. There are all the books that I read last month. It was such a good reading month, and like I said, I'm so excited to keep the good vibes rolling because there are so many good releases and so many exciting books that I'm reading next month, or this month. It's April 2nd now that I'm filming this. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Comment down below if you guys have read any of these books or what your favorite book was that you read in March, because I would love to know. And hopefully I will see you next time. Bye!